Welcome to a new series that I call Trying Out Decks So You Don't Have To. I scout through many tournament decks, I go through content creators videos and of course whatever my own chat says and try out those decks and give them a rating from 1 to 10. And today's deck is, let's roll it, it is gonna be Ho-Oh and Snorlax. And you might think this is a very strange combination, but if you look at the latest Ursi tournament, there was a Ho-Oh Snorlax deck that went 7, 1 and 2. And if you look a little bit later, there's another deck, also Ho-Oh Snorlax in a Froggy X tournament who went 6 and 3. So what is in this deck? Well, let's have a look at the second deck first. This is a deck featuring 2 Ho-Ohs, 1 Snorlax and 1 Lugia, which are your main damage dealers who can benefit of Ho-Oh. And there's a Regigigas in there, I guess for Oricorio, and the Giratina because the deck is quite slow, so this allows you to build up something else at the same time. Double Ilima to get out those high HP and retreat cost Pokemon, a Dawn if you need to move some energy, a Leaf for pivoting potential, and this deck runs Fire, Electric and Water energy. So it's a big mix and big theme. So let's review this deck. So in the first match I'm facing off against a Buzzwole deck, and I have a good start here with Silver. It shows you how capable Silver is when you have it early. You can see a full hand, which is always good to know. But this Buzzwole deck is difficult and our deck is incredibly slow, so I am focusing on Ho-Oh while Snorlax is there as a big tank. That's the only thing Snorlax can really do in this case, and I just need to wait for an Edema. But we need a lot of energy, and at the same time they can start attacking with Buzzwole. And we don't have any Edema, we don't have Lyra in this deck either, which maybe would have made more sense. So we cannot release this Snorlax and it goes down to a Buzzwole. And we don't have enough energy now to attack, and we don't have enough HP to attack now. Now we finally get a Lugia in the end, which would have had enough damage to attack with, but at this point it is too late already, and this deck clearly is very slow. So we learn from this, and we go into the next battle and see how this goes. And now we have a good start. We start with the Ho-Oh and Lugia combination, we're facing off against the Starview deck. So again, I just need to wait till Ho-Oh has enough energy to start ramping up. At the same time they can attack me, but Ho-Oh has a decent amount of HP to survive for long enough, and it can do 80 damage as well, which is good enough for a Skarmory. So now we can start ramping up, but we cannot just go for Lugia because Skarmory has a lot of damage reduction potential. So Lugia does not have enough damage even at 180. So I need to actually ramp up a second Ho-Oh in order to KO the Skarmory EX. So that's exactly what I do. I get my second Ho-Oh up, start ramping, now I can finally put the energies on Lugia and hopefully KO next turn, but then they use a Jasmine, again clearly showcasing why Skarmory is good, and this deck is not that great. Even though Lugia has a lot of damage potential, you need to be very careful with the energies, and of course, you have to have a Leaf in there, otherwise you can never take out your Lugia. So we do manage to get a win, but it wasn't the easiest, but some viewer gave me a good idea. Maybe Spoken Communications could help in future battles. So in this next one, we're facing off against an Electric deck, and now we can showcase what Giratina can do. So Giratina is good because now you can ramp up 2 Pokemon at the same time, in this case Ho-Oh and Giratina itself. And this gives a good potential, but again, we are waiting for that Lyra, we're waiting for that Ilima, sorry, and we're not getting it. And now we have to let Snorlax go down again, giving our opponent an easy 2 points, especially against aggressive decks like Silvally. But now we can use the Giratina because that has ramped up at the same time, and we can use communication just to get that Lugia as well, because it is quite useful. So we do get a KO on the Silvally with Giratina, but they put in Oricorio. And Oricorio means I cannot ramp up Lugia anymore. Lugia is pointless against Oricorio, so I have to put the energies on Regigigas. That is the point of Regigigas in this case. But they have a Cyrus, so they are way faster as a deck. Again, this deck is very slow, so it's not the greatest. But we try again. We go into Battle 4 because we need some data, right? Battle 4 is against a very strong Charizard deck. And we have a good starting hand. We have everything. But they had a turn 2 Charizard, so it's very hard to stop that. And even though this deck is quite good for one reason, and that is the HP. Every Pokemon here can potentially survive a hit from Charizard, including Snorlax, and also Ho-Oh with a cape. So exactly what I do, I get off an attack with Ho-Oh, put the energies on Lugia, but then a Sabrina knocks me out, because I didn't put the cape on the other one. So this was maybe a little bit of a misplay, but again it shows you that this deck is incredibly slow. But we try again, last battle, battle number 5, and in this case we're facing off against another deck running Lugia. But we had a good start, but they have a Magby start. And Magby, as we can see here, is potentially much better because it allows them to ramp up much faster. They can use a Leaf to switch between Druddigon very easily, and at this point already have 5 energies of Lugia, so they can tech twice in a row of Lugia. And this deck, well, it just goes down to this Lugia. There's no saving this. So, not the best feeling about this deck. And we end up in a defeat, 1 win at least, that's something. So let's give this a rating. Well, I am gonna rate this a very harsh 3 out of 10. It has some potential, it has a lot of good AP mons. If everything goes right, you might have a chance, but it's just too slow to do anything. But this next deck actually is much better. So this deck made by Miliardo features again double Ho-Oh and a Giratina, but in this case 2 Snorlaxes, 1 Komala for your Oricorio, which makes a lot more sense, and a Magpie for more damage as well, energy as well. Then we also have an Enigma here and a Lyra, which the Lyra saves so much time and energy here. Again, another silver, also a Pokemon Center Lady, which can heal the Snorlax's sleep off as well. And we're running Solo Psychic, making this a much more consistent deck. But let's see how it does. So this deck, much different. We start in the first battle against another Charizard deck. So perfect way to align it and to compare to the other deck. We have a good start. We have Ho at the start and we have double Snorlax on the bench, but they again have a turn 2 Charizard. And that is always scary to face. But luckily they also put the Eevee in, meaning we can save a little bit of time here by luckily putting on a cape on Ho-Oh, but also using the Sabrina to save us 1 extra turn for us to put more energy on Ho-Oh, because again this deck is still kind of slow, you know, if you don't have Magpie. But we do get energy off on Ho-Oh and we can start ramping up our Snorlax. So we put all the energy on 1 Snorlax. As you can see here, it doesn't matter where you put it or what kind of energy you put on. That's the nice thing about this deck as well. And we can now have enough energy on Snorlax, but we decide to let Ho-Oh go down so we can get a clean switch into Snorlax and also ramp up the other one, which is super nice. So now we have 2 to play around with and we have an Enigma and Lyra in our hand. So they heal up the Charizard back to 160, so it's out of range of 1 Snorlax, and they KO our Ho-Oh. But now Snorlax can shine, so it hits once. Of course it goes to sleep immediately after, but you have 2 tries to get it awake again before your next turn, and we get it in 1 try, which is amazing. So this deck already off to a much better start. They do Sabrina here, which doesn't really help them, to be honest. It just gives me another chance to hit with the other one. So I go for an Enigma here to remove the weakened Snorlax and start attacking with a full HP Snorlax again, getting the KO on the first Zard. Well, now they have another one in the back, but we do wake up again, which is super nice, and we can start hitting this next one sooner than later. And to making things even better, we top deck a Cyrus so we can win by bringing in a Sylveon that we hit very early. So, off to a good start. We have a win, 1 out of 1. This deck seems already much better than the other one. But let's have a look against another match that we repeat now against another Starview EX. Can we win again? Well, we start again with a Ho-Oh and Snorlax start. We red card them, which also shows that's quite nice, and we again go for an early Sabrina to get control of the game. They start using a Alone and Dark Trio, but we see that they have a wheel in their hand. So using Silver, you can also see what their strategies are. They sadly get another wheel back in the next turn though, so it doesn't work too well. But we are surviving and we can KO this Alone Dark Trio using Ho-Oh and get energy on our Snorlax. At the same time we have a Giratina on the bench now. So they KO the Ho-Oh and we can start attacking now with Snorlax. And this shows how good this card is, but also how bad it can be, because here you can see I just don't wake up. It took me many coin flips in order to wake up and finally use that Cyrus to bring back in the Starmie and get the KO. But that's 2 wins out of 2. This deck already seems much better than the first one. So honestly, so far so good. Let's see if you can do it again in the next game. So the next game is against a Pichu Arceus deck. And this deck is very scary because it can ramp up very fast. And we have the worst start of this deck, which is a Komala start. We do get a Magpie on the bench, but then I realize I can't Lyra unless Komala has damage on it. So I misplayed here a little bit. But the Komala start is clearly very bad for this deck, and that is one of the big risks this deck has. You get KO'd instantly and it will be very hard to recover afterwards from it because you don't have any energy on anything else, and this basically becomes a wash. I can use Magpie now to get some extra energy on the Ho-Oh, but they have a Rocky Helmet and that means I cannot win again, because even after hitting it, Arceus will KO me instantly because I go back to 130 HP. So yeah, this is one of the flaws of this deck. Running a Komala in there as a starting one is not great, but the next one is against a Solgaleo, so another strong meta deck. And let's see how we survive here. So we only have Giratina on the bench, but we have a Snorlax there to soak up damage. And we do have an Enigma in our hand, meaning we get enough time to ramp up Giratina and start attacking the Solgaleo, and we can use a Silver to also remove that Lily from their hand, so we can survive a little bit longer and also make sure that they don't survive much longer with that Solgaleo. So we get a KO off, but they also KO our Giratina. But now at the same time we almost have enough energy on our Snorlax to do some damage with, and we get a super lucky top deck Sabrina here to win us instantly. This battle could have gone either way. Solgaleo is a strong matchup, but we managed to survive, even with a bad starting hand. But in the next one we're facing off against the Buzzwolves and a Steelelec, And oh my, we lost it with the other deck, and this deck, let's see how it performs. So we have a nice start again with the Giratina. We get a KO off using Irima on Snorlax, but they can KO our Giratina with their Buzzwole because it has enough time with Lusamine. And now we have to hope to get our Ho-Oh up and running in time, and with the Snorlax there, we're thinking a lot, what should we do here? There's a lot of potential here, but they silver, which is a little misplay on my part because I had a Lyra in hand, which I wanted to use here, and I had a silver in my hand, which I should have used last turn, and I didn't. So we lost this battle. Maybe it was a little bit of a misplay, but in the end I don't think it would have mattered that much because Buzzwole is just very fast. So what do we give this deck a rating? Well, I give this deck a solid 8 out of 10. This was actually a much stronger deck than the initial version. This deck had a lot more potential with Lyra and Ilima and the double Snorlax having a lot more flexibility, even though it's slow. So there you have it, 2 decks tried. Should you try them in ranked? Well, the 8 out of 10 Snow Magpie deck I would definitely recommend. I think it's not a bad deck at all. It can catch some decks off guard, you know, especially good against Charizard, I would say, because it cannot KO any of the Pokemon here in one hit, especially with the cape in there. The other deck, I would not run at all. I would burn it. No point in running that one for sure. But it was fun, this one. Let me know if you want to see other decks as well. Please like and subscribe, and I'll definitely do more of these. Thank you, and bye.